Start with Tom Westerholm.
Hey, Brett. Just wanted to ask about, obviously, some injury news today. Kind of how you see that playing out in the early going with the rotation, and how comfortable you're going to be with some of the rookies who are coming in, maybe getting a chance to play early on.
First of all, Tom, we'll see. We'll have all the answers to that once we get into practice. We're still in the NBA protocol the next few days. It's only individual workouts, and it's very limited people in the building at once. So once we start practicing here shortly, then we'll figure all that stuff out. But yeah, the injuries are part of it. We've talked many times here over the last few years. You just anticipate experiencing that. You're hopeful that you can start a season in training camp fully healthy, but we're not. So we'll manage accordingly and try to get everybody up to speed. But I think we've got a lot of good young players that could complement some of our better players.
John Corrales.
Hey, Brad. How comfortable are you with the current COVID protocols and how things would be handled if someone happens to test positive?
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with it, John. I mean, I think as we saw with the bubble, the NBA crosses every T and dots every I. They, have been great communicating with all of us and communicating with our, the heads of, the team liaisons. And so I'm comfortable with it. And, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting together and starting practice soon as a group. It's been a short break in some ways, but this is what we do and this is what we love to do. And we're hopeful that everybody continues to be safe and we're able to do this thing right.
Mark Murphy.
Hi, Brad.
Mark.
You've lost 3 major free agents over the last 2 years. Is that at all dismaying to you as a coach? And also, did Gordon ever express to you a desire to be more of a featured player in what you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, I won't get into necessarily all of the individual conversations. I'd say everybody left for different reasons. Some of those reasons are layered. Some of those are simple. We've had a unique situation here in that we've had some really good players that are older and some really good younger players that we're obviously building around. And so each situation is a little bit different, I like all those guys. I wish all those guys well. I've been able to stay in touch with most. So like at the end of the day, free agency is free agency for a reason. You get a chance to decide what you want to do and where you want to spend your next step of your career. And there's usually a lot of factors that go into that. But from a big picture standpoint, am I worried about the way that things are going or anything like that? We've been really good. We've just been in a unique circumstance, and our goal is obviously to be a little bit better than we've been. But I'm certainly happy for anyone that gets a chance to make that decision that they think is right for themselves.
Brian Robb.
Just for going back to Gordon, Brad, just how tough of a loss is that for you guys from just an on-court standpoint and trying to replace what he did for you guys?
Well, I think it's a hard spot, right? He was he used far less possessions here over the last 2 years than he had in his last year, certainly the last few years in Utah. And it's hard to still be as effective and as good when you're not using as many possessions. It's just the reality of the game. But I thought he did a great job of transitioning to that and doing everything he could to help other people soar and help us be successful. And so, you know, I thought obviously during his tenure here, you know, he had a lot of unfortunate injuries. Obviously, the big one right out of the gate. But even last year, just like little things that were unfortunate. But I think he'll have a, you know, good, healthy rest of his career. I think he'll do great. But I thought that he made every effort to, you know, help us win and help us play as well as we could as a team. And so we all wish him well.
Amanda Pflugrad.
Hey, Brad.
Hi, Amanda.
You had previously mentioned just building around certain players. What excites you the most about Jayson Tatum, his new contract, and just being able to build around him more?
I'm sure his new contract excites him more than everybody else. No, it's great. We're happy for him. I think that obviously, you know, Jayson and Jalen, you know, both have signed new contracts within the calendar year, and you know, both have already made a huge impact with their play on the biggest stage, and all that they've done in their first couple of years in the league. And now the challenge is to continue to grow, continue to get better, to, as we've said before, to not only become some of the better players in the league, but also some of the better leaders in the league. I think they're both exceptionally capable of that, and they've already shown that both on and off the court. Yeah, we're excited that they're here. We're excited that, you know, in a lot of ways, those guys, their ascension late in the season, and I talked about this a little bit, I think last time, you know, when you look at their first 17 games of the season, statistically, it wasn't as good as their last 17 games, and those were playoff games. And I think that simple ascension through the season gave us a chance to be in the mix last year. And, you know, we're appreciative of that, and we think that they're just going to get better and better because they love it, they work at it, and they like to compete.
Gary Washburn.
Hey, Brad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Gary.
Okay. Two questions. One on Tristan Thompson. He's a guy who's kind of given you a lot of issues over the years, and even the hack of Tristan eventually didn't work because he became a better free throw shooter. Can you kind of expand on what he brings you guys?
Well, I think first and foremost, he's such a threat at the rim, you know, and I talked to him a little bit yesterday about, you know, being able to get to the rim off the actions quickly, because if he doesn't get it off the initial action of the pass, he can certainly get it off the glass. He's a tremendous offensive rebounder. He plays very physical on offense. He's good with dribble handoffs. He's good with fakes. And I think that he'll just continue to improve in those areas. And, you know, I hope that our wings will, with all the attention they draw, that'll open up opportunities for him as well. And then I think on the other end, Gary, he is that versatile big defender where, you know, you can play a traditional defense, or you can be more aggressive, or you can switch. And he just gives you a lot of options, great physicality, the combination of lateral mobility, strength, and motor gives him a chance to guard a lot of people. And so we thought that it was obviously important to add to our team. We think he complements our guys well, and we're excited he's here.
And are you, okay, I guess, satisfied with the bench? You guys had trouble scoring last year. The additions and maybe guys kind of growing into bigger roles. Are you content, or will you have to kind of look at how you guys practice and play to kind of determine what the bench will be?
I don't think you know any of that until you really get out. And I think practice, you'll see some of it, right? But, you know, the one thing about practice is your team always wins, you know, because you're just playing inter squad. So we'll see once we go through practice, get into the games, you know, where we're strong, where we need, you know, a little bit of help. We'll have some help coming at some point, right? Because we've got a few guys that are out. So, but early on in the year, yeah, we're gonna find out a lot, and guys are gonna get opportunities, that they'll have worked hard for, that they'll have earned through the first few weeks of the season, and that, are going to be more, more available because we've got a few guys missing.
Tim Reynolds.
Hi, Brad. To follow up on Amanda's question about Jayson and the contract, these deals that those class of 17 kids got, like Bam and De'Aaron and Donovan, they're some of the richest deals in league history. I know that's a byproduct of the times and where the money is now, but deals like that probably can come with a bit of a burden too of expectation. Do you have to talk to Jayson about not playing to the contract necessarily and just be the best player he can be? Like, do you have to have that specific talk with him at all?
Maybe in passing, Tim. First of all, say this about Jalen. Like, Jalen and Jayson both realize and are thankful for that, right? They both understand the history of the league, how how the monies have gone up over the years and everything that comes with that. They're students of that. And so I think first and foremost, they're thankful and appreciative. Secondly, because they've been playing in Boston in meaningful games their whole careers and have played in so many playoff games already, they know what burden and expectation feels like. And so I don't think that this is a huge addition of that to them. I think they've always put that on themselves. I think that because we've been in several long playoff runs already, they have seen that up close. And I think what all that experience does is it helps you manage some of those burdens and expectations by, keeping in mind what's important, maintaining perspective, knowing that you've got a group in here that believes in you and it's going to rely on you, and whether you have a game where you're 1 for 18 or you score 45 points, is going to love you the same when you walk in the gym the next day. And I think that's the bottom line. There is a lot of responsibility that comes with those things, but I do think that those guys have already felt and certainly lived the responsibility of putting on a Celtics uniform.
Tim Bontemps.
Hey, Brad, I was just curious, obviously we got the news today that Kemba's going to be out at least till early January. Kind of where is your head at in terms of long-term concerns with his knee after the way the last few months have played out?
Well, I think this has as much to do with the turnaround as anything else, Tim. I think if we were starting games in the middle of January, he'd probably be starting right along with us, and I don't even know if we'd be talking about it. So I do think that, it's very similar to what I said when we got to the bubble. This is about making sure that he feels great, strengthening appropriately, moving at the right pace, and hopefully playing his best basketball late. I know he's very committed to that. He's had great work over the last few weeks with regard to strength, but we are going to proceed slow. And I do think the expedited timeline of starting on December 1st impacted him quite a bit with regard to his own timeline of starting the season on time.
So is it safe to assume then that when he does come back, it'll be a similar build-up process to the way you guys did it in Orlando all the way through, where, at that point, he starts to slowly integrate in a little bit more, and it's going to be a significant amount of time after that before he's, fully ramped up to playing anywhere near full minutes?
I would guess that, Tim, but I haven't had those discussions with our training staff. We're still in the infant stages of that right now. So I would guess that's probably the case. So whenever he comes back, he certainly will be on a restriction of some kind. And then, I think that we'll make sure that, again, we manage as well as we can all the way up to, late in the season. And if we're lucky enough to play in the playoffs, and then, hopefully he'll be peaking right at that time.
Mark D'Amico.
Hey, Brad, you kind of touched on it there in talking about Kemba, but I know there's some significant differences of this restart to starting today and what you guys did a few months ago back in July. But in what ways did that process of that compact restart back in July help to prepare you and your players for what's starting today and going to come over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that it's exactly the same, right? Because we had, 3.5 months off, and then we went into July. But it's the same, in our minds, we're going to build up very similarly, where it's not going to be maybe as much in the first couple of practices that you would normally do in a training camp scenario, just because you want to make sure you're ramping up at the right pace. You're hopefully avoiding any muscular issues, et cetera, et cetera. But the rest of it is, our guys have great experience in coming through, getting tested every day, knowing all the protocols, knowing to always be on alert to hit curveballs. I think that you always are just kind of, waiting for practice to get moved back an hour, or, you're just always on call. And so we've lived that in the bubble. And so that's I think that's a positive to build up on. And we talked about it yesterday, embracing the unusual circumstances to, get a chance to play the game we love is, certainly totally worth it, and something we look forward to no matter when the season starts and how much time we've had off.
Last two questions for Coach Cassidy Hubbarth.
Hi, Coach. You just mentioned about trying to follow the health and safety protocols. It was a lengthy manual. How much do you feel like you have a handle on what the protocols are and being able to communicate those to the team?
Well, we have other people in our organization that are on top of every bullet point and are making sure it's communicated to all of us. Luckily, I'm not tasked with that as well. It would be hard to plan the first couple of practices and, make sure that I'm checking every test that goes through. So we have other people that do that. We've got a great staff, a great leadership team that, makes sure that we do everything we're supposed to do, make sure we understand all of the rules, regulations, and protocols. And, they did a great job of leading us through the bubble, and utmost confidence they'll lead us through this.
Final question for Coach Mark Murphy.
I know you've been a fan of Jeff Teague for a long time, but with Kemba's situation considered, just how important could he be early in the season?
Well, I think he could be really important, but I think that's, not just early in the season, but all the way through. I think that Jeff puts pressure on the defense in transition. He can get to where he wants to go on offense, and he can pressure the ball defensively. So it fits in with everything we need on our team and how we play, especially, continuing to be fairly small. I think that ultimately he will, without a doubt, be impactful. But those are the things that really stood out when bringing him in. It's great to have him here. It says a lot about him that, that he would sign the deal to come here because he wants to win. He wants to help us win, and I'm very appreciative of that. He's a heck of a player, and we'll see how it all fits together again after practice, but we're glad he's here.
All right, Coach. Thanks very much for your time. We'll wrap it up right there.